Yo, what is up, guys? XRP's at $1.11 right now on CoinMarketCap. Our first tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Ripple Prime is already deeply integrated into key divisions of the DTCC, the backbone of US capital markets. A new chapter for real-world tokenization begins in a few hours, and XRP is right at the heart of it. Our next tweet comes from Bitcoin Magazine. Justin, Coinbase Vice Chair, says Clarity Act has bipartisan support. Democratic and Republican senators are working around the clock to get this across the finish line. Let's watch this video.
Regulation for this space. And I can tell you firsthand, as a former senior regulator at the SEC, we believe and we embrace the importance of regulation because regulation and clarity in this space is going to protect investors, it's going to foster innovation, and it's going to allow the U.S. to lead in this space. And so I'm greatly encouraged by what we are seeing with the Clarity Act because it has that vision in mind. It has customer protections in mind, and maybe even more importantly, it is a bipartisan effort because what we are seeing on the ground is a concerted group of Democratic and Republican senators working around the clock to get this across the finish line.
Yeah. No.
Smash that subscribe button and hit that like button if you believe XRP will reach $3 again this year. Our next tweet comes from the DTCC. The shift from experimentation to production is underway. July 15th, the day tokenization moves closer to real-world production at scale. Learn what's next and why it matters. Our next tweet comes from the DTCC. Hours to go. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Wow, Senator Kevin Cramer eyes August 7th deadline to pass the Clarity Act. Let's watch this video.
A couple of other things that I know you're familiar with.
Well, we thought, it was easy to pass housing, right? I mean, we thought it was easy to pass the Clarity Act. What about the Clarity Act missing its proposed July 4th deadline? It passed the House almost a year ago. It's been held up in the Senate as well, Senator. Is that going to pass soon? We just spoke with the head of the CFTC, and he says we're close to the finish line, but it feels like deja vu again on that.
Well, it does. The Clarity Act is a little, we did pass it out of the committee, as you know, out of the banking committee with Democratic votes. But even the Democrats that voted for it in committee won't vote for it on the floor unless a couple of things are straightened out. One of them being some of the ethics language, which I think, by the way, Democrats are insisting on simply because Donald Trump's the president and because he's successful at business, which is bizarre to me. I mean, if we punished every president who was successful at something and said they can't legislate, if they're a farmer like Jimmy Carter, they can't sign a farm bill. I mean, Hoover was in the mining business, for crying out loud. There are lots of potential conflicts, but it's all about Donald Trump in this case. I think there are a couple of those things. That's something that the White House is going to have to work out with Democrats, quite honestly. It's between them. And if the CFTC commissioner chair thinks that we're close, it may be something. There may be something that we know that he knows that we don't know. So I'm still hopeful for clarity. The good thing about clarity, Maria, is both sides do want to do it. They do want to have good legislation along, the issue, obviously, of cryptocurrency, and we need to.
Our next tweet comes from Mr. Poole. New XRP prediction. Jay Claver just dropped a wild scenario. If adoption, regulation, and liquidity flood the market, XRP could aim for 1,500 to 2,500 by 2026. Sounds crazy until it isn't. Watch close. Let's watch this video.
Last but not least, end of 2026, XRP price prediction.
Oh boy, I rapid fired the rest of them, so might as well. All of these are optimistic, okay? These are all optimistic, based on a lot of liquidity moving into crypto, we're getting regulation, we're getting adoption, all those things. So if none of that happens, these prices are null and void. But XRP, I think 4 digits in 2026. $1,500, $2,000.
Our next tweet comes from Ripple. The Clarity truck is back in DC. Keep an eye out today and tomorrow. Our next tweet comes from Smoke DQG. Directly from Swift, we can't build everything ourselves, so we will look for partners. Listen closely. Let's watch this video.
I liked what you mentioned there about looking to partners, because I feel like we're not unique at Swift, and that traditionally much of the industry might relate to this. The thought process is we can build it all ourselves, when in fact there are some components, as you mentioned, that already exist out there in the industry, right? And while you could build it, why not partner if there are those kind of unique aspects? So really exciting to see how we kind of put these different components together and then continue to validate that in an MVP format to hopefully push forward from there. Watch this space, but I mean that's one sprint.
Our next tweet comes from Smoke DQG. Swift, we want to work with tech providers inside tokenized environments. Listen, let's watch this video.
Yeah, I mean, the immediate next sprint for us, and I think it's clear also that it's no surprise to anybody that has been for the full events. We have talked about blockchain and tokenization and digital assets and cryptocurrency, CBDC. So our immediate next sprint concerns proving not actually exploring, but actually proving in real production a use case that can actually help us to define what could be our main role in different tokenization environments. So do we only play the standards role? Do we want to play something more? So do we want to become more of an Oracle information provider? Do we want to become that super connector between tokenized environments or DLT chains and everything that happens off the chain? I think Mark Smith from Symbian was referring to that in the beginning. So we want to work with a number of tech providers, a number of investment banks or financial institutions, and Swift in the middle, of course, to try to see, all right, if we define these 5 or 6 different roles that we can play here, and a few of them have been...
Our next tweet comes from Ripple Zitty. Just in less than 420 minutes until DTCC begins live tokenization with Ripple Prime, already inside the room. Our next tweet comes from Bitcoin Magazine. Just in, Congressman Frenchhill says lawmakers are going to have a field hearing for the Clarity Act in New York next week. We've got to get this market framework in place to be combined with the Genius Act. Let's watch this video.
Poe, Congressman, we got to talk about the Clarity Act. We are approaching the 1-year anniversary of the House passing the Clarity Act. It's been stuck in the Senate since then. Debate centered around ethical issues in the bill. CFTC Chairman Michael Seelig joined me earlier this week, and here's what he said to me about it. Watch. Is it that the Democrats are stopping the progress because of ethics issues and trying to get specific language in there about President Trump and his family in crypto?
Well, there's certainly some mission creep beyond what's really critical here. We want to set standards and protect consumers, protect investors, and that's something that Democrats and Republicans should be able to get behind. I do think there's a little bit of this creep into ethics and other types of extraneous issues, and they're just derailing this real opportunity to have a bipartisan bill in place. Otherwise, you end up with regulators like me writing all the rules, and I'm sure all the Democrats would prefer to get something in place that's bipartisan.
So, Congressman, I'd love to know your thoughts on what's holding this back. I will be speaking with the vice chairman of Coinbase momentarily. Ryan Van Grack will be joining me in the next hour, but we've already talked about what Jamie Dimon said about the Clarity Act, even though he reluctantly supported where we are right now. You said the Clarity Act will end years of regulatory uncertainty, but we're not certain that this is going to get across the finish line yet because it's stuck in the Senate. What's going on?
Well, that's a problem. I want to thank Gillibrand and Lummis and Bozeman and Scott and many others on both sides of the aisle who want to get to yes. And they've been working with our bill where we got 78 Democrats to support our bill exactly a year ago. We're coming to New York next week to have a field hearing led by Brian Stile, our subcommittee chair on digital assets, to highlight why this is so important to have a market framework. We've got to get beyond concerns that some have about ethics. And I would summarize it like this, Maria. If we passed the Clarity Act last summer, many of the things that people were expressing concern about, meme coin issuance, co-investment, use of exchange, investing in exchanges, all that would be under a market framework of regulation with clarity, no pun intended. And that would provide a lot of transparency to people that are concerned about the Trump family's investments. We've got to look at the big picture here. And we've got to get this market framework in place to be combined with the Genius Act, which is the stablecoin legislation that's already been enacted into law. You can't have a functioning, innovative marketplace and grow this economy on blockchain and use digital assets and tokenization if you don't have both. Stablecoin is like a cell phone not connected to a cell phone network. And the market framework that Mike Seelig talked about is, in fact, that network that we need.
So before I move on to the Housing Act, do you expect that the Senate feels that way, the way you do, and will get this on the floor and pass the Clarity Act soon? You think it'll happen this summer?
I've encouraged Senate leadership to put it on the floor. I think if you schedule a floor date here in the month of July, that will cause these final meetings, these final discussions to take place. You've got to have a deadline in Congress to get people to move and find consensus.
Yeah.
Our next tweet comes from Riz XRP. Pass the Clarity Act, XRP. Let's watch this video.
As you know, Ripple is really focused on the enterprise. We serve banks, we serve payment providers, we serve prime brokerage customers, corporates. So we're not focused on consumers. And what we find is when something like the Clarity Act gets passed, that certainty allows CFOs and treasurers and bank executives to lean in, where right now they might be a little bit nervous that a future regulator, a future Gary Gensler, who really was attacking this industry, could rekindle some of those attacks. And so the Clarity Act really puts that to bed. As Tim Scott said on this show earlier today, it allows the United States to lead in an industry where we have been lagging because we haven't had this clarity. The industry wants clarity and wants regulation. And when you have Jamie Dimon representing that somehow we're trying to circumvent regulation, like nothing could be further from the truth.
Real quick, if this helped, press the like button. It tells YouTube to show this to people who want the truth, not hype. And press the subscribe button if you're done being sold the moon. I've already got your next one right here. Go.